Valerie Grayson, 47, had lived her entire life in Austin, Texas. She worked as a nurse, had two grown kids, and had been divorced for 5 years. Her days were routine: work, church on Sundays, and scrolling through social media at night. It was on a quiet evening in March when she received a message on Instagram from a man named Raka, a 24-year-old from Indonesia. At first, Valerie ignored it, but curiosity led her to open the message. It was respectful and polite. "Hi, I found your smile very beautiful," he wrote. That was the start. Over the next 3 months, they messaged daily. Raka said he was a fitness trainer who also ran a small surf school in Bali. He sent pictures of himself on the beach, with clear skies and turquoise waters behind him. Valerie was drawn to his charm, his youth, and how he made her feel alive again. He called her Queen Val and told her age didn't matter in love. Her friends were skeptical, especially her best friend Dana. "Girl, don't get catfished," she warned, but Valerie believed in the connection. "He makes me feel seen," she would say. Raka began asking her to visit. "I want to hold your hand, feel your presence," he said in a video call. Valerie saved money, requested time off work, and booked her first ever international trip to Bali. Her children didn't know. They wouldn't understand, she thought. She told them she was going on a wellness retreat. On July 5th, Valerie landed in Denpasar, Indonesia. Raka was waiting with flowers at the airport. He was taller than in his pictures, tanned, and spoke in broken English. Valerie blushed like a teenager. "You are even more beautiful in real life," he said. They drove to a beachside villa he claimed belonged to his cousin. The air was warm, the ocean nearby. Valerie was overwhelmed with joy. She called Dana, excited. "He's real, Dana. I think I'm in love." For the next 3 days, Valerie and Raka explored Bali. He took her to temples, beaches, and local food markets. At night, they stayed in and danced, kissed, and shared stories. But something shifted on the fourth day. Raka was less affectionate, more distracted. He took longer walks alone and spoke in hushed tones on the phone. Valerie began to feel uneasy. That night she asked, "Is everything okay?" Raka smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Yes, just money problems. Tourist season is slow." Valerie offered to help, but he refused. "You are my guest, not my bank," he said. Yet the tension lingered. On the sixth night, Valerie was seen entering the villa around 9 p.m. by a nearby vendor. That would be the last time anyone saw her alive. The next morning, her body was found in the bathroom of the villa, bruised, naked, and with signs of sexual assault. Her passport and phone were missing. The police arrived quickly and sealed off the property. The paradise Valerie dreamed of had become a nightmare. The sun had barely risen over the coast of Bali when the villa's housekeeper arrived. Her name was Ketut, a small woman in her 50s who came daily to tidy the guest villa. That morning, she noticed something strange. Valerie's slippers were outside, but the door was slightly open. A breeze pushed the curtain aside, revealing an eerie stillness inside. "Hello," Ketut called out. No answer. She stepped in slowly. The living room was messy. The wine bottle from the night before half empty, glasses still on the table. When she reached the bathroom, she froze. Valerie lay on the tiled floor, cold and still. Her robe was open, and there were bruises on her arms and neck. A small pool of blood was on the floor beneath her. Ketut screamed and ran out to call the villa manager, who immediately phoned the police. Within an hour, local officers arrived. The lead investigator, Inspector Dewa Putra, was a sharp-eyed man in his 40s with years of experience handling crimes involving tourists. He examined the scene carefully, speaking little. He noticed scratch marks on Valerie's neck, a broken hairpin on the floor, and no signs of forced entry. "Get forensics here. Seal the room," he said. The body was transported to the Denpasar morgue. The medical examiner later confirmed signs of sexual assault and physical trauma. The victim's vagina was torn, and there were defensive wounds on her arms. Cause of death was blunt force trauma to the head. Valerie's passport, phone, and wallet were missing. There was no sign of forced robbery, suggesting the suspect might have had access to the room. Raka, the young man she had come to meet, was nowhere to be found. Hotel staff said he had left early that morning, saying he had an emergency back home. His phone was off. His surf school was closed. He was gone. Back in Texas, Dana received a call she would never forget. "We're sorry to inform you. Valerie Grayson has died in Bali." She dropped her phone and screamed. Dana immediately contacted Valerie's children. They were shocked. None of them even knew their mother had traveled to Indonesia. Within hours, the story hit international news. American woman found dead in Bali after meeting online lover. Interpol got involved. So did the U.S. Embassy. Valerie's children flew to Indonesia the next day to identify her body and demand justice. Inspector Dewa worked tirelessly. He pulled CCTV footage from nearby shops. One grainy clip showed Valerie walking into the villa at 9:03 p.m. the night before. A second clip showed a man, believed to be Raka, walking out alone around 3 a.m. with a small backpack. The villa owner provided a fake name used to book the room. Raka hadn't used his real ID. But a breakthrough came when forensic investigators found a single fingerprint on the broken wine glass. They matched it to immigration records. Raka Aditya Pranata, 24, originally from East Java, had entered Bali 6 months ago. Now he was missing. A manhunt began. His photo was circulated across the island, ports were alerted, and border patrol stations were put on high alert. The investigators also found messages from Valerie's Instagram and WhatsApp. The romantic language turned darker in the last few days. Raka had asked her to send money. She refused. "I'm not here to be used," she had messaged. The last message she sent: "If you don't come back tonight, I'm leaving tomorrow." But she never got the chance. 2 days after Valerie's body was discovered, Inspector Dua received a tip from a local fisherman near Padang Bai port. The man claimed he saw someone matching Raka's photo board, a small ferry heading to Lombok Island, the morning after the murder. That was the lead they needed. Within hours, the Bali police coordinated with Lombok authorities. Posters were shared across local villages and towns. Officers searched hostels, beach huts, and tourist spots, but Raka had gone underground. Meanwhile, back at the Denpasar police station, Valerie's phone was finally recovered. A scavenger had found it dumped in a rice field 2 miles from the villa. Fortunately, it was water damaged but not destroyed. The tech team worked overnight to extract the data. What they uncovered shocked everyone. Aside from sweet texts and romantic emojis, there were hidden messages in another app. One Valerie hadn't told anyone about. Raka had been using Telegram, and some of the chats were disturbing. He had forwarded pictures of Valerie to someone saved as Boss AR. Messages like, "She's here now," "older than I expected," and "give me the rest after the job," suggested this was more than a romance gone wrong. Human trafficking? Inspector Dewa wondered aloud. But there were no signs of Valerie being held or forced. She had arrived on her own free will. A deeper search into Raka's background revealed even more troubling facts. He was not just a surf instructor. In fact, the so-called surf school didn't exist. It was a fake Instagram page with stock photos. Raka had a criminal record in Surabaya for fraud and online scams. He had been arrested twice but released due to lack of evidence. His online charm was a mask. He had a pattern, chatting with older foreign women, asking for money, building trust. But Valerie was different. She had refused to send him cash. She came instead. Why did he kill her? The autopsy revealed a clue. The blow to Valerie's head came from a stone statue in the villa's bathroom. The force was brutal. Investigators believed an argument had turned violent. Donna, Valerie's best friend, was helping the authorities piece things together. She gave them voice notes Valerie had sent before she left the U.S. One voice note stood out. "Donna, if anything happens to me," his full name is Raka Aditya Pranata. "He lives somewhere near Kuta Beach. I don't want to be dramatic, but just in case." Valerie had felt something. She wasn't completely blind. Meanwhile, on Lombok Island, a break came when a woman working at a small guest house in Sengagi recognized Raka. She said he paid cash for 2 nights and used a fake name, Tio. He stayed mostly in his room and never removed his sunglasses. But that was 3 days ago. Inspector Dua sent a team there immediately. A search of the room revealed a blood-stained shirt, a fake passport, and a receipt from a boat rental. "He's trying to escape to a smaller island," the officer guessed. A storm was brewing on the horizon, both in the skies and in the case. Valerie's death was no longer just a tragic romance story. It was turning into something darker, with deeper secrets hiding beneath paradise. The hunt for Raka was about to heat up. The rain started early in the morning on Lombok Island. It poured in heavy sheets as Inspector Dua and his team arrived by speedboat, their jackets soaked and their shoes sinking into the muddy roads. Time was running out. Every hour Raka stayed free increased the chances he would vanish completely. The local police had narrowed the search. Raka had rented a small motorbike and was seen heading east toward the less crowded areas, villages surrounded by thick forests and cliffs leading into the ocean. His likely destination? Gili Islands, a set of remote islets where foreigners often disappeared into quiet guest houses and open beaches. Dewa's team split into two. One group remained in Sengagi to comb through guest houses and check boat rentals. The other headed to the east coast of Lombok, where illegal ferries to Gili Trawangan sometimes departed without official record. Meanwhile, the American embassy in Jakarta placed heavy pressure on Indonesian authorities. The U.S. media was all over the story now. Texas nurse murdered in Bali, online love turns deadly, American tourist found brutalized, Indonesian man on the run. Interpol issued a red notice. Valerie's children, devastated, offered a public plea. We just want justice for our mother. Please find him. In Bali, Dana helped go through Valerie's emails and chat history. She found something curious, a deleted folder on Valerie's cloud account named For Raqqa. The folder had been auto-backed up. Inside were personal photos, bank statements, and even copies of her flight itinerary. Inspector Dewa shook his head. He knew everything before she arrived. He planned this. The motive became clearer. Raqqa had used Valerie, first emotionally, then physically, and when she resisted, when she said she wouldn't send money or do what he wanted, he became violent. Perhaps he tried to force himself on her. Maybe she fought back. That would explain the bruises and torn skin. The rage behind the killing wasn't just panic, it was punishment. Back in Lombok, the break they needed came on the third day. A young boy named Seno, who worked at the harbor cleaning boats, told police he saw a man with a backpack and sunglasses early that morning. He paid someone to take him to Gili Air, the boy said he was going to start over. By midday, 2 officers and Inspector Dewa boarded a small private boat and headed for Gili Air. They arrived at sunset. The island was quiet. No cars, just bicycles and footpaths through palm trees and huts. They moved silently from one bungalow to another, asking questions. Finally, a Dutch backpacker said she had seen someone matching Raqqa's photo, staying in a hut by the beach, alone. When police approached the hut, they saw movement inside. Dewa signaled for silence. They knocked. No answer. Police, open the door. No sound. Then, a crash. They kicked it open. Inside, the hut was empty, but the back window was wide open. The beach stretched behind it, moonlight shining on the wet sand. They ran outside. Footprints led toward the water. Raqqa was already in a boat, pushing off. He looked back and saw flashlights. Freeze! Dewa shouted, but Raqqa didn't stop. An officer fired a warning shot into the air. The boat wobbled. Raqqa ducked, then leaped into the water. He didn't get far. 2 officers jumped in and pulled him out, kicking and screaming. I didn't kill her. She wanted it. She was crazy, he shouted in Bahasa Indonesia. Dewa looked at him coldly. You're done running. They cuffed him, soaked and shaking. The young man who once seduced Valerie with sweet words and false dreams now looked like a frightened boy. Justice was coming. Raqqa sat in a cold interrogation room back in Denpasar. The sea journey back from Lombok had been long and quiet. He had stopped yelling after the first hour. No more protests, no more insults, just silence. The mask of confidence was gone. Now he looked like a cornered animal. He wore borrowed clothes, his wrists still red from the cuffs. A translator sat beside him. Across the table was Inspector Dewa, calm and focused. The cameras were on. A lawyer was present. Tell us what happened the night Valerie Grayson died, Dewa said. Raqqa looked down, silent. Raqqa, Dewa repeated, we have your prints on the glass, your blood on the shirt, and messages you sent to someone named Boss AR. Lying will not help you. Still nothing. Dewa placed Valerie's last photo on the table, one from the villa, where she smiled in a sundress and sunglasses. She trusted you. She flew halfway across the world, and you killed her. Raqqa finally looked up. She changed, he muttered. She started acting like she owned me, like she was my mother. Explain, Dewa said. Raqqa clenched his fists. At first, everything was good. She bought food, gave me clothes, said she loved me. But she wouldn't give me money. She said she didn't want to be used, but she was using me too. For attention. For her own loneliness. His voice cracked. I asked her to help with rent. Just a little. She laughed, said I was a liar. So you hit her? The lawyer asked. I didn't plan to. She said she was going to leave. Said she was done. That I was a mistake. What happened in the bathroom? Dewa asked quietly. Raqqa leaned back. His eyes were glassy. She was crying. I tried to kiss her. She said no. She pushed me. Called me a child. I got angry. I grabbed her arms. She scratched me. I shoved her. Her head hit the wall, he paused. I thought she fainted, but there was blood. I panicked. I tried to clean her. But then I saw... He stopped. You saw what? The lawyer asked. She wasn't breathing. I checked her pulse. Nothing. I didn't know what to do. I ran. Dewa remained quiet for a few seconds. Why did you take her phone and passport? I didn't want her family to know who I was. I thought, maybe it would look like a robbery. Maybe no one would trace it back to me. You also sent photos of her and your location to someone named Boss AR, Dewa added. Raka went silent again. Who is Boss AR? Dewa pressed. Raka shook his head. He finds women. Online. He teaches us how to talk to them. He gives us the words. We get paid if we get them to send money. I never meant to hurt anyone. But I needed money. I wanted to leave this life. You were part of a scam ring? Raka nodded slowly. But Valerie didn't fall for it. She came in person. And you weren't ready. I never meant to kill her, Raka whispered. The confession was recorded. Charges were officially filed: murder, sexual assault, and destruction of evidence. Back in the U.S., Valerie's children held a quiet vigil in her honor. Her daughter Amy spoke through tears. My mother believed in love, even after all she'd been through. She didn't deserve this. She just wanted to be happy again. Dana also gave a statement to the press. I begged her not to go, but Valerie was kind and trusting. I hope this opens other people's eyes, especially older women. Not every smile online is real. The case shook both nations. Social media buzzed with debates on romance scams, online predators, and the danger of traveling for love without safeguards. Raka sat in his cell, awaiting trial. The paradise he had once used to lure victims had now become his cage. 3 months later, the courtroom in Denpasar was packed. Journalists, embassy officials, and curious locals gathered as the murder trial of Raka Aditya Pranata began. The courtroom was simple: white walls, wooden benches, and the red and gold crest of the Indonesian justice system above the judge's seat. Raka entered in handcuffs, escorted by 2 guards. He wore a plain white shirt and black trousers. He looked thinner now, pale and withdrawn. But the cameras still clicked wildly as he was led to the defendant's seat. Valerie's children, Amy and Marcus, sat quietly in the front row. Amy wore her mother's necklace. They had flown in from Texas with support from the U.S. Embassy. Beside them sat Dana, her face tight with grief. The prosecutor, Ms. Ratna Suharto, began the case with a calm but powerful statement. This is not just a story of a woman in love. It is a story of manipulation, violence, and betrayal. The defendant lured Ms. Valerie Grayson across the world with lies. When she refused to be used, he beat her, assaulted her, and left her to die. She presented the evidence. CCTV footage showing Valerie entering the villa that night. Raka leaving hours later, alone and hurried. His fingerprint on the wine glass. The torn robe and evidence of sexual assault. The confession, recorded with legal witnesses. Photos of Valerie's injuries were displayed, causing Amy to look away and Marcus to clench his fists. Raka's defense lawyer tried to shift the narrative. It was a tragic accident, he said. My client panicked. Yes, he lied about his work and asked for money, but Valerie was not held against her will. There was a disagreement, a fall, and fear. He didn't plan this. But then the prosecution played Valerie's voice note. If anything happens to me, his full name is Raka Aditya Pranata. He lives somewhere near Kuta Beach. I don't want to be dramatic, but just in case. Her voice hung in the courtroom like a ghost. Next witnesses were called. The housekeeper who found the body. The guest house worker who saw Raka hiding. A tech expert who recovered the disturbing messages sent to Boss AR. And Dana, who cried as she shared Valerie's final words. He makes me feel young again. I just hope I'm not being stupid. The final blow came from a cybercrime specialist who explained how Raka had used romance scams on several women before. Valerie was the only one who came in person, and the only one who didn't give him money. It made Raka dangerous. In his final statement, Raka stood and addressed the court. His voice was low. I'm sorry. I was desperate. I didn't plan to hurt her. I just didn't know what to do. I never wanted her to die. But the judge, stern and unmoved, replied, You may not have planned a murder, but you created the storm. You lured, lied, and lashed out when things didn't go your way. You took a life, and you must face the consequences. After a short recess, the court returned for the verdict. The room fell silent. The judge spoke. Raka Aditya Pranata, on the charges of murder, sexual assault, and obstruction of justice, you are hereby sentenced to 28 years in prison under Indonesian criminal law. Gasps filled the room. Amy cried silently while Marcus put his arm around her. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed to get reactions. Amy gave a short, powerful statement. It's not enough. It won't bring our mother back, but at least now she can rest. And Raka, he was led back into the prison van, eyes on the ground. The cameras no longer mattered. The predator who once hunted online now faced decades behind bars, alone, far from the beaches he once used to deceive. 6 months after the trial, the island of Bali seemed to have moved on. The beaches still shimmered, tourists still came in search of beauty, and the waves still crashed peacefully onto the shores. But for some, nothing would ever be the same. Valerie Grayson's ashes had been taken back to Texas. Her children held a private ceremony on a quiet hill just outside Austin, where she used to hike in her younger years. Amy brought a seashell from Bali and placed it at the base of a memorial tree they planted for her. She wanted to believe in love again, Amy said softly. She didn't deserve what happened, but we'll keep her memory alive. They started a small nonprofit in Valerie's name, the Valerie Foundation, to raise awareness about online romance scams, especially those targeting middle-aged and elderly women. The foundation organized workshops, published guides, and partnered with the FBI's Internet Crime Complaint Center to help other victims speak up and seek help. Donna, still grieving, became a spokesperson for the foundation. She traveled to schools and churches warning people, love isn't always what it seems online. Please protect your hearts and your lives. Back in Indonesia, Inspector Dewa received an award for excellence in international cooperation. The case had drawn global attention, and his work in bringing Raka to justice was praised widely. But the inspector remained humble. I didn't do this for the headlines. I did this for Valerie, and for every person who was vulnerable to people like Raka. Raka himself was transferred to a maximum security prison in Malang, East Java. Inside, he was no longer the smooth-talking charmer from Instagram. Other inmates called him America, mocking his fall from online stardom. He spent most of his days in silence, staring at the gray walls and avoiding the mirrors that once showed him a handsome face. A prison psychologist tried to interview him once. Why did you do it? She asked. He didn't answer at first. Then finally he whispered, I didn't think she'd come. I thought she was just another lonely woman. But when she came, she was real. And I wasn't ready. He never asked for forgiveness. He didn't write to Valerie's family. No remorse, no tears, just silence. The villa where Valerie died was shut down. Locals avoided it, calling it cursed. A new owner tried to renovate it but later abandoned the idea. Even in paradise, ghosts have a way of lingering. For the world, the story slowly faded into the archives of tragic headlines. But for those who knew Valerie, she was more than just another victim. She was a mother, a friend, a woman with a heart big enough to believe in love again. In her hometown, her favorite bench at the community park now had a brass plaque that read, In memory of Valerie Grayson, a heart open to love, a voice silenced too soon, may her story save others. And every Sunday, Dana sat there with coffee in hand, watching the sunrise, just like Valerie used to. She would whisper, I miss you, Val, but I promise they'll never forget.